again, Duckies, and welcome to Review with Ree. In today's episode, we will be learning about how to answer analogy questions in the verbal subtest of the NMAT. So, let's get right to it. So maybe you've come across analogies already in your English tests before in high school and even elementary, and this is what it looks like. It says here, man is to woman as boy is to blank. The choices are child, friend, girl, and baby. So in a blink of an eye, I would know that the answer would be girl. But for this video, let's dissect the steps on how to solve analogy questions. So analogies, by the way, are the comparisons of two otherwise unlike things based on resemblance of a particular aspect. Analogies are questions that assess your ability to recognize and to understand relationships between words or concepts, and then apply that understanding to find a similar relationship between another pair of words or concepts. So, there are 5 steps. These are my techniques in answering the verbal questions. First off, we have to define the first pair of words. So definition is essential, as in the English language, one word can mean a whole lot of things. Okay? So it's best to identify and define the first pair of words to be able to come up with the most accurate answer. So when defining words, most students would opt to memorize words from a dictionary, which are not recommended because they could be time-consuming and the retention is not good at all. But despite that, I do recommend starting slow, like maybe learning about 3 words per day. You write it down in your notes. It's better to write it down so that the retention would be best and then the memory would stick. So you write it down, you define it in your own words, and then you make your own example in a sentence. What I do is that I will search for unfamiliar words in the dialogues of the movies or the series that I'm currently watching, and then use that dialogue to come up with a sentence, so that if ever the word comes up in the NMAT, then I would remember the character saying his line, and it would be easier to remember. If you want, though, to not memorize, that's also okay. You could do context clues. Okay, you would analyze what the word means by looking at the prefixes, the suffixes, okay, or the root words. And then you determine if the words provided are positive or negative, if they are nouns, if they are verbs, if they are any part of speech. And then utilize those to know what the word means. So don't worry so much if you're not able to memorize a lot of words prior to your NMAT exam, because if you've seen NMAT practice tests or you've done review centers mock exams, the actual NMAT verbal analogies is actually 40% less complicated than that. So it's actually a whole lot easier, guys. It's the type of English words that come up in random casual conversations, so you don't need to fret so much, okay? Okay, so the next one would be to identify the relationship between the first pair. So it's important to identify the relationship in order to come up again with the best accurate answer. There are a lot of relationships that come out in the NMAT, but I will be discussing only the high yield ones. The other ones that I've come across in review centers or practice tests, I will also be sharing just in case it will come out in the NMAT, but I would give emphasis to those that are high yield or those that are most commonly occurring or coming out in the NMAT for the past cycles. They are back to back, okay? And then next up, we use the same relationship to determine the missing word in the next pair. So after that one, we eliminate the wrong answers. So for example, the relationship is a synonym. And then in the choices, there are antonyms. So you already know that that is automatically cancelled. And then out of what is left, you choose the best answer. Okay, so what are the steps again? We define, identify the relationship, determine the missing word, eliminate, and then choose the best answer. So let's proceed with the common relationships in the NMAT, verbal analogies. So number 1, gamit na ito, this is the synonym. Most of the questions in the NMAT are synonyms and antonyms, so it's very easy. So synonym include words with the same meaning. So for this one, I'm gonna include sample questions with this same relationship so that we could go ahead and know more about the relationships. At the same time, practice our skills in answering using the 5 steps to answer verbal analogy questions. So first off, we have here, enthusiastic is to passionate as plentiful is to blank. So the first pair, enthusiastic is to passionate. What do we do first? Step 1. We define. That's right. So enthusiastic and passionate are all pointing towards excitement about a certain thing. So from that, we would know that the relationship is a synonym. So we apply that same relationship to the second pair. We have here plentiful is to blank. So we're looking for a synonym of plentiful. I've already spoiled you with the answer, but let's just dissect the choices. So we have here scant. That's an antonym, right? So that's already wrong. Minimal is a synonym of scant, which is an antonym of plentiful. Ample is just sufficient and it's not plentiful. And thus the answer would be abundant. So it's just that easy, you guys. Okay, next up we have the antonym. So that's the opposite words. So here we have another example. We have here head is to feet as stalactite is to stalagmite. So we know that head and feet are opposing or opposite parts of the body because the head is at the anterior portion while the feet is at the posterior portion. Now we have to find the antonym of the next pair. We have here stalactite. Now the stalactite, as we know, is a cave formation that grows from the ceiling. So we need to find the cave formation that rises from the ground. So the icicle is not a cave formation, it's frozen water. Limestone is also not a cave formation, so are calcium. So that leaves us with the answer, stalagmite. So another one that is very common would be the part to a whole or whole to a part type of relationship. So we have here that one word is a part or a portion of the other word. So what is an example of this one? Okay, you have here the first pair, define. Alveoli is to respiratory as ventricles is to blank. So alveoli is the little air sacs in the lungs. So that means that alveoli is a part of the respiratory system. Now that we know the part to a whole relationship that they have, we have to apply that to the second pair of words. So ventricles is a part of what system? So we have here endocrine, circulatory, digestive, and nervous. So ventricles is a chamber of the heart and thus it belongs to circulatory. So yeah, it's that easy, no? So sometimes if you're already knowledgeable about a certain topic like this one, it would be easier to grasp the relationship as well as know the final answer. So in this verbal subtest of the analogies, all the other subtests are actually playing a role in here. So they're all interrelated because sometimes, just like this one, this is biology topic, right? So in the analogy subtest, if you know topics about the biology, sometimes even physics and chemistry, you would be able to answer this part with ease. So let's move on to the next type of relationship. So you also have a category to item. This is basically your type and category. This compares a category to an object that belongs to it. Okay, so let's see an example. So here we have droop is to palm as vegetable is to blank. So this example is quite complicated. Okay, so I got this example from the SAM 2019 practice set. The other one you'll notice because it's a different font and style. That one is from the Filipino website. I will put it in the references at the end of the video. I'll also include a link in the comment section below for you to check it out. So this one, this is what I told you about earlier. It's a biology topic, right? They are similar in a sense that pome fruits are the ones that consist of fleshy layer with 5 or more seeds in a capsule, similar to that of a pear or an apple, whereas your drupe are the ones that have a fleshy layer with only a single hard stone in the center. So the stone or pit is sometimes called the seed. Okay, and an example of this one would be your coconuts and your peaches. Okay, so in that sense, the vegetable is closely related to what? Closely related to herb. So that is the answer. Moving on to the next one. Object to attribute is also known as the description relationship or the characteristic relationship. Okay, this is the one where it compares an object to one of its characteristics. Example, we have here vinegar is to runny, as ketchup is to blank. So vinegar has a runny consistency, it's fluid, it's liquidy. You could easily see that the runny is a descriptive word for the vinegar, which is more of a fluid type, whereas ketchup could be described as what? Ketchup it could not be described as turbid, or motile, or pectinous. The most appropriate word would be viscous. Okay, next up. We have here object to action, basically just the function of an object. It compares an object with an action associated with it. We have here scalpel is to cut, as forceps is to blank. So scalpel is a doctor's surgical tool, okay, to cut through skin. So we already know from that point, from defining it, that the relationship between the two is object and its function. So with that, you have to apply the same relationship to forceps. So what is the function of forceps? You have here A transfuse. This is not a blood bag or an IV line, so that is not the answer. Remove is also not the answer. Retract, it is not the answer as it is not a retractor. So that leaves us with the answer, which is to hold. Okay, next. We have here person is the tool. So this compares a person to the tool that they usually use. An example here, chef is to knife, a surgeon is to blank. So the chef uses the knife commonly to prepare the food and perform their function or their job. So in that sense, what is the tool mostly associated with the surgeon? Okay, so it is not anesthesia because the person here is not an anesthetist. It is also not a bandage because that is usually used post-op. It is not gloves because everyone in the surgical team uses gloves, so that leaves us with scalpel. Next up, action performer. So this involves action and the person or thing doing the act. You have here titrate is to chemist, as install is to blank. So for this one, even if you do not know what the relationship is between the two, you could always say that this is the action and this is a person, right? So if this is an action, then that would leave us with finding a person. Equipment is not a person, office is not a person, and equity is not closely related to the word install. So that would leave us with electrician. Okay, titration is an action done by a chemist and installation is done by an electrician. Cause and effect, another common example that comes out in NMAT. So one word is the cause of the occurrence of the other. So this one is from Filipino. Okay, so this here says slight is to hurt, as lag is to blank. So as you can see, this as a very complicated set of words. So slight is to hurt, as lag is to blank. To slight would actually cause to hurt. So that would mean that we are finding an effect of the term lag. It is not haste, because in this scenario, lag is defined as to fall behind in movement or progress. So haste is with urgency. For heft, could mean to lift or to carry something heavy, as well as when describing weight. So that is also not an effect of the lag. Braggart, on the other hand, means a person who boasts the achievements or possessions. So that is also not an effect of the lag. So that would leave us to tardiness, which is the quality of being late. Moving on, we also have measurement. So one word would indicate a unit of measurement for the other. So keep in mind here difference between the English system and then the system international. Okay, so first pair, weight is to kilogram. We know that kilogram is a unit of weight, specifically an SI unit. So what is an SI unit of volume? It is not carat. It is also not intensity or quantity. It is liter. Symbol to representation. So it compares a symbol or act to what it actually represents. You have here applause is to praise as curtsy is to blank. So I couldn't find a more appropriate example of this one, but this is very close, okay? So an applause would signify praising someone, right? So that is the relationship. For curtsy, what does curtsy represent? So it does not represent exit or civility or obedience. It most likely exudes respect. Next is your field is to study. So usually for this one, physics and chemistry and even biology is involved. So it compares a particular field of knowledge to what it studies. So we have here, this is also not an appropriate or like a very exact example, but you get the gist, right? So medicine is to illness as law is to blank. So medicine would treat or fight illness. It is a field that would is focused on treating illnesses and preventing illnesses. What is its equivalent in law? So it is not thirst, nor discipline, nor sensitivity. It is fighting anarchy or lawlessness. So that's what law is for. Okay? We also have products. It involves a product of a process or a thing. So we have here wine is to fermentation as liquor is to blank. This is also something that you would learn in your chemistry. Okay, so wine is to fermentation. So fermentation is a process that would produce wine. So what is a process that would produce liquor? It is not brewing because brewing is beer. Frothing is a process that would make milk like fluffier. Pasteurization is also a process for milk. So that leaves us with distillation. We could also include as example for this one, when you say cow is to cheese, just like that. So it is a product of a thing or a process. Sequence. The second word comes before or after the first word. So we have here dinner is to lunch as Wednesday is to blank. So dinner would come after lunch. So what comes after Wednesday? So that would leave us to Tuesday. So guys, most of the NMAT questions is somewhat as easy as this one. Intensity, it is related to the words with varying in degree or intensity. So follow is to chase, as nudge is to blank. Chase is a more extreme version of follow. So what is a more extreme version of nudge? That is not to pursue, because pursue would be similar to follow. Catch, not necessarily. It is not involved in this one. Precede, also not. So that would leave us with thrust. Other examples of intensity would be lukewarm is to boiling, as flurry is to blizzard, like that. Here we have the other less likely to come up relationships in the NMAT analogies. So what do I mean by pairs? Example of that will be PB&J or peanut butter and jelly, like fork and spoon, and other things like so. I like the first example, the initial introduction example, the women is to man as boy is to girl, so something like that. So another one would be gods or goddesses and their domains. So commonly what I've heard would be like for Zeus is to lightning and then Poseidon is to sea or something like that. Okay? Then the last one we have countries and capitals. I haven't seen this in my set though, but an example of that would be Tokyo is to Japan, or like Manila is the Philippines. Okay, so I think that is all there is to it, but before we end the video, I would like to have a recap on the steps in answering your analogy questions. So first off, we have to define the first pair of words. So as I've said earlier, this is very important because in the English language, one word could mean a lot of things. And if you don't define it well, you're gonna have trouble finding the right answer. So I would give you an example right now as to what I found tricky during my review for the NMAT. So here is the question, you guys. It goes, galaxy is to stars as... Okay, I'm so sorry. It's taking me so long to write it. I'm just doing this on my keyboard and my trackpad, so I don't have tablet yet. But, you know, maybe you'd like to donate. Donate for a cause. I have my Gcash number on my About the Author page in my channel, so maybe you'd like to help me help you. So I was thinking, a galaxy is a collection of stars, right? Like it's a larger collection of stars. So culture, what is this a larger collection of? So I was thinking, culture is for the people, right? It is all the beliefs, the customs, and the institutions of the people. So what is for the people in the choices? That's gonna be most likely my answer. These are the choices. So ako, na medj vovo, I was thinking, there isn't really anything that's about the people here, but I think economy would do. Because maybe they're just fudging with my brain and they're making me overthink things. So I just went with economy. I was like, fudge it, you know? Let's get this over with and answer economy. But then to my surprise, I was wrong. The answer was bacteria. But that time, I wasn't enrolled in a review center. I was doing self-paced review prior to my review center so that I would be ready and I would be knowledgeable when it comes to the actual review. I didn't have the rationale or the explanation. I only had the, the answer key. It took me about a week to realize why I was wrong because I was just thinking, maybe like there's something wrong with the answer key. So full of myself. So yeah, the answer was bacteria because it occurred to me that culture could also be a collection of bacteria, right? Because there's bacterial culture. So, oh my God. So, sa first pa lang na step, wrong na ako. Because I defined it wrongly. I did not put together pa while I was answering na bacterial culture exists. So yeah, I was wrong with that one. That was very embarrassing. But it's okay. Nobody knew. Only me and then now you guys as well. So, that's why step 1 is very important. That's why I put that in step 1, even if you might think that's a bit too simple. So yeah, define. Next up, identify the relationship. Sometimes kasi in the choices, it might come off as super easy because you found something na yeah, this is the answer. But then, if you don't narrow down the relationship, sometimes kasi the choices have a word that is a synonym, an antonym, maybe another one that's part of whole, another one that's cause and effect. So you're gonna be confused. So it's better to identify the relationship first so that this is gonna be your guidance. You're not gonna get lost because you already know that this is the type of relationship you're trying to find. And using that same relationship, you use that as your basis to determine the missing word in the second pair. And then follow the process of elimination. And if you're down to 2, you're just gonna have to choose the best answer. Okay? So this one, number 5, takes expertise. So it's gonna take time to select the best answer. Okay, but just continue to work on your skills in answering analogy questions, and you're gonna find yourself to be easily selecting the correct answer in no time. Okay, so I think that is all. So we have here our references. This is stuff from study.com from SEM 2019 practice test, and then this is the one I've been saying in my previous videos, Filipino website. They have a huge collection of test bank. Okay, so thank you so much, Dockies. I really appreciate that you're with me in this video as well. And I hope to see the same love and support in all my posted videos and also in my upcoming ones. Bye!